Hey everybody, it's the Master here, doing another video. I've entitled this The Fall of QAnon. I know that having that in my name of my video might risk a few things, but I guess Kyle Kalinske had one and his channel's still up right now, so I think I'll be okay. So what I'm saying with this fall of QAnon is that it's over, you know? They can backwards rationalize all these things and say, oh, well, Trump's going to do this, Trump's going to do that in a week. He's going to release all the files on the aliens and all this shit. It's a bunch of bullshit. QAnon is a joke. What happened was with me, and it doesn't mean that everything they said or everything they predicted pretty much did not happen, but everything they complain about it doesn't mean that everything they complain about isn't relevant. In fact, that's the sad thing about them, is a lot of the stuff they say is true. What happened was, I think it was about 10 months ago now, I was on Reddit and there was this video, and I didn't really know all the terms of QAnon. I think it was like the coming storm or some shit. So I clicked on it and it was like some kind of video, and it's like it was like a 10-minute video. The first 6 minutes, I'm like, damn, this is great. Let's talk about corrupt politicians. I mean, up until like when they started talking about the cultural stuff, I'm like, fuck you. I like rock and roll and sex and it's stupid. It's like, there's our terrible degraded culture. I'm like, whatever, Then I kind of knew it was some kind of QAnon thing at that point. But, the first 6 minutes were like really good. That's the irony. Talking about, there's billionaire cabals and all this shit. It's like, it's pretty true. There's all these people trying to keep control. I was just listening to the audiobook version of Matt Taibbi's book, Hate Incorporated, last night. And he was talking about the invisible primary. And when I heard about that, I'm like, this sounds like it's conspiracy theory, almost, but it's true. And that's the sad thing. And the basically invisible primary is before a candidate is selected, or before primaries happen, there's this schmoozing between the corporate donors and the politicians that are going to be these establishment people that are going to be selected, because it's really a selection process, the elections at this point, which means we're an oligarchy. So anybody telling you the lesser of two evils, you should vote for him, like, no, they're all the same. Trump might be a little bit more of a loose cannon, of course, but at that point. So it's a true thing, and you can Google it, the invisible primary. There's articles written about it from mainstream sources. What Taibbi was trying to say is, like, they'll talk about this openly for a while until everything starts, and then it's all about democracy after a certain point. The facade starts, the curtain closes, So that's pretty sad, but where am I going with this with QAnon? So QAnon has a lot of relevant things to say, or it did, but it just got things so damn wrong. And, it was so ridiculously stupid and it was dumb. A lot of this shit was just, dare I say the word retarded? I know that's kind of a controversial word, but it was. And it's like, you read about this stuff, you're just like, they really think that Trump is like some savior that's going to put all these people into prison like in the next year or something like that. And this is like 3 or 4 years ago, just around the corner. It reminds me of what Trump supporters used to say. wait and see, wait and see, you know, because what happened with the wait and see thing, which is almost like a meme in a way. I almost wanted to make a meme back then. I didn't really go, you know, for a while, wasn't as like interested in a way, I wasn't as interested in politics, I guess, even though I watch politics all the time, but like on Facebook and stuff, which I'm taking a break from. But um, the wait and see thing is more like what they said. So they said basically in the beginning, as Trump selected more and more of his cabinet, and it was becoming pretty obvious and apparent that he was selecting these billionaires and these like Goldman Sachs financial type of people, corporate execs. These Trump supporters started saying, wait and see. Like, he's just going to defy these people. And they're the deep state he had put as a front to do his real agenda and all this stuff. And it was so ludicrous and became pretty apparent pretty soon. Now, that doesn't mean that he didn't do a couple of things that I wouldn't say the QAnon people said that he did right, but like in general, like the crime bill, not crime bill, what's it called? The First Step Act, that's what I meant. Pulling out a TPP, you know, things like that that were populist and were real. Now, whether or not he did more populist from the right or whatever you want to call it stuff than Obama, you know, I'd have to study a lot of Obama stuff. I know they're both frauds, basically, though, as far as what they were promising. I mean, QAnon would have it that by now we'd have a different currency that's backed by gold and silver. Hillary Clinton would be in jail. Most of the, you know, these corrupt people would be in jail, or more than that, as some of the people said. If they, you know, if QAnon were right, at this point we'd have like this, you know, Trump would have been reelected, you know, by a landslide, because all these people would be in prison and all these pedophiles have been found. We'd be in a new golden age, and all these wars would have stopped, and you know, everybody would be rich, you know, rich and happy. But no, they were wrong, because they're full of shit. They were always full of shit. I wouldn't be surprised if it was some type of troll trying to like see how gullible people were. I mean, even Alex Jones has disavowed them. Now, Alex Jones is a grifter, but like I said, you know, I think for a while he did some legitimate things. Now, that doesn't mean he's a legitimate person. I just remembered a couple more guests that he used to have. Greg Palast, Cindy Sheehan. He used to have a lot of different people on his show. We surprised. I mean, he had Noam Chomsky on his show, but that was early on, which was really weird, and kind of got into a weird argument about gun control. It was kind of a clusterfuck. But he used to be way more legit, especially during the Bush era. During the Bush era, you know, Alex Jones kind of spot on in a lot of ways, you know, as far as a lot of stuff he said. A lot of his predictions didn't come true and never will. But, you know, take him with a grain of salt, but I think he was on the right side of history with Bush, at least. With Trump, he's completely wrong. But I don't think Alex Jones even made the outlandish predictions that QAnon said about Trump being like, I mean, basically QAnon would like sniff Trump's farts if they could, you know. And it was just so stupid and so silly. And they were wrong, and it's over. You know, it's over. And I'm not saying that I haven't really found any evidence of election stuff with Trump, but you know, like I said before, if there was, and I haven't found any, disclaimer, but if there was, it wouldn't surprise me that they wouldn't have pulled some shit, the Democrats, because they did that with Bernie Sanders and with the Green Party in this last election and the previous election, previous selection. My whole point is that we have to be mad in the first place that there's an invisible primary. I mean, for one thing, you know, you could be mad about this candidate or that candidate not winning or supposedly being cheated, but the fact that there's invisible primaries They basically select the candidates in the beginning, corporate execs, donors, and stuff. That makes me more mad than, maybe one voting machine possibly hypothetically malfunctioning because some Democrat operative rigged it or something, supposedly somewhere. I don't even know. I don't think so, but it doesn't even matter because it's bullshit. We live in an oligarchy. We do not live in a democracy. We live in a representative oligarchy, essentially, with some strains of democracy mixed in. And that's the way it is. And people have to be honest about that. If QAnon really, and the Capitol protesters really wanted to, really want to do some damage, they should go to these donors' houses, or, and demand democracy. The corporate donors, the financial, the bankster donors, the CEOs, these people that are funding these elections, and the operatives involved in that too. But no, they go to the Capitol and throw a fit, kind of like the Kavanaugh thing, which should be mentioned more because, they went to I think it was the Capitol, the Senate, the protesters are that, but they're women, they're fighting for their rights. It's different than the Capitol protesters. No, it's not. It doesn't matter who's protesting. They are fucking pissed. Lockdowns. And, there was some CEOs and corporate execs and rich people that were protesting the Capitol protest. So, like Kyle Kalinske says, these lockdowns, though, some of these people are legit pissed. Their livelihoods are gone, And once Trump mentioned, he hovered that 2,000, and Pelosi looked like a fucking idiot for her political machinations because she wanted to wait and not give Trump credit or whatever for the last stimulus. I forgot what the whole thing was. It was in the fall. As soon as that happened, that triggered a lot of people. A lot of these things have triggered a lot of people. But QAnon is stupid. It's always been. It's just, you watch their stuff or you read their stuff, and it's just so, like, over the top, like, hilarious. Like, now, there are certain things they have talked about that are very controversial, which I'm not going to mention here. Maybe I'll mention it in my BitChute channel. A little teaser. Which I have investigated, and there are some weird things. But the predictions about Trump having some kind of fucking, like, code words that he used in tweets, and the coming storm and all this shit. It's just like, it turned out to be bunk. Now, I think Trump is a Machiavellian, manipulative figure in politics, but he's not doing it for the QAnon people. He's doing it for himself. Ultimately, it's about Trump. And sorry to disappoint you, QAnon people, but it's the truth. So, it's over. I don't know what's going to happen, the next couple weeks as far as a lot of these people. I expect there's going to be riots, from the right this time. And I just wish we could unite against the oligarchs that are taking control of the country, rather than saying this side is communist, this side is fascist, Nazi, racist. It's like, we all have the same enemy. It's obvious, That's why at first I was like, people said, oh, there were a number of people that voted for Bernie that voted for Trump. And I was like, no, that's just like Bernie bashing. But it's, no, it was true. So that just proves to you we have the same, we all have the same, we're all human. We all have the same motivations, ultimately, a lot of the time. We don't like this usurpation of power by a neoliberal, corporatist, globalist. I'm using that term. Whether you believe in people like the left used to call it globalization. And the right calls it globalism. It's the same fucking thing. WTO protests had leftists, and it also had a weird guest spot from Pat Buchanan, who was trying to, who's problematic in that area. You know, it's kind of like Al Gore with regards to like the environmental stuff. It's like, oh, you've spent your whole life supporting things that are against the environment, like you even supported NAFTA and GATT, and now you're telling us about global warming. So it's a bunch of nonsense. But you know, anyways, Pat Buchanan was in that protest too, so, or did a speech there. And I remember those WTO protests very much, and how that motivated a lot of the left. And why, and what happened to those people, you know? Now they're kissing the ass of people that were their enemy 20 years before. A lot of them are, not all of them. You know, you have the Jimmy Dores and the Kyle Kalinskis and the Jacobins of the world that are still on that side, you know, still hanging in there. But then you have these fucking technocratic billionaire supporting woke Democrats that are total hypocrites and totally defying everything they were once about. And speaking of that, Colin Powell just became a Democrat, I guess. Well, I think it's remarkably a bad sign that a person who lied repeatedly and got us into a war that may have killed 1 million people, or at least 500,000 to 1 million people, is now a Democrat. And all these neocons, Lincoln Republicans, oh, Trump is so bad, I'm going to become a Democrat. Oh, well, you're infecting the Democratic Party with your neoconservatism, which is one of the scourges of the world. So the neoliberals and the neocons have now united. Great. So people think this is going to be better than Trump. I don't think so.